Mr. Emmanuel Anyidoho, he is a PNC's vice presidential candidate, and he's in our studio now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
Very well, thank you. My name is Baisiwa, by the way. I know that's your grand nephew.
Good morning, sir. You're welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir.
Some people are calling you a doctor. Are you a doctor?
No, in fact, a very good question. I was just going through the printed media this morning and I saw the title doctor being awarded to me, maybe from yesterday. But actually, I'm not a doctor. I'm Mr. with 2 masters. Master of Science in Economics from University of Ghana, and then a master in Public Administration from the Harvard University in Financial Management, Economic Policy, and Public Policy.
Does that qualify you to be Vice President of Ghana?
Well, not really necessary, because I believe that every citizen, every able citizen has a right to qualify to be the president of Ghana or a politician for that matter, but it takes a kind of pedigree to do that.
I mean, with your background in economics
Yes.
and knowing what we know, that as a vice president, should you be voted into power, your role is to head the economic management team of government. And indeed, by your nature as a vice presidential candidate, you're supposed to be able to fill in where the president lacks. What exactly do you bring to the PNC ticket?
Wonderful. What we promise is macroeconomic stability for the economy. That means the eradication of inflation, reducing it to single digits or even lesser figures, and reduction of interest rates. All right. And all these requires a fiscal balance or a balance in the budget. And that also requires fiscal discipline, internal discipline of individuals or technocrats who are handling the budget. If the budget can be balanced, of course, in economics, we are allowed some 3% excess in terms of handling budget deficits, but it should not be exceeded. We have exceeded that a lot, and that's the cause of inflation and high interest rates, which is actually a setback for the economy. It's virtually crowding out the private sector and reducing production.
I mean, today on the front page, I mean, if you go on to gh1tv.com, and I want to believe other platforms have captured it, the PSC says that you're going to, solve Ghana's macroeconomic challenges through simple fiscal discipline, and you talk about fiscal discipline. Exactly what are you going to do, if you may, in steps?
Okay. Basically, just give an idea to viewers. If you're running a home, right, you don't go into expenditures which exceed your revenue. If you have to borrow, you have a problem. So we should look at our revenue situation. Either we generate more revenue to meet our needs. If we don't have that revenue, we should not spend beyond what we have. If we have to, not more than 3%.
Do you think we are overly spending as a country?
This is very true. This has been I would say, the pedigree or the habit of past governments for a long time. That's the reason why we are saddled with internal debt and external debt, because you have to borrow from the central bank to finance this debt, and that creates inflation, because when you borrow from the central bank, literally you're increasing the money supply, or you're printing money.
Let me focus a little bit more on you. You strike me more of as a teacher, 4 years at Achimota School and 8 years in Liberia. What are your achievements that would make you a suitable vice president for Ghana?
Thank you. You missed a little bit of it. About 4 years teaching at the University of Ghana.
Okay, so that makes you even more of a teacher.
Exactly.
Yeah, 16 years as a teacher.
Wonderful.
Of your career.
Wonderful. Before you can be a professional economist, I think it's ideal that you have a teaching experience. So that teaching experience gives you the ability to handle economic theory, apply it, teach students, etc. But the caveat is that when I returned from the University of Liberia, I joined the Ministry of Finance. I worked there for 5 years.
What did you do there?
There, I was head of the Expenditure Monitoring Unit. I was a special assistant to the minister, responsible for fiscal issues of public finance. And then I was a liaison officer between the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, where I was on the Open Market Operations Committee, which is the antecedent of the current Monetary Policy Committee, which actually is in charge of monetary policy, the control of interest rates, and all that.
Your UN and your AU credentials have been touted a lot in your description, your CV. How is that relevant to the job of a vice president should the PNC win the election in December 7th?
Thank you very much. As I just said, okay, experience in practical economics within government was very useful. From there on, I moved to the UNDP as a national economist in Ghana here. Also reporting and then liaising with the UN headquarters on Ghanaian issues. And then I moved on to
that's mainly just development issues?
Yes.
How germane is that to
very good.
To your experience?
With the UN, it meant going on missions, supporting various African countries. And then in so doing, we gather experience on the problems and the solution of problems within the other African countries. We see the performance of other African countries where they have achieved better performance than us in Ghana. And we are going to bring all these experiences to bear, best practices.
And how about the AU? The AU is a different. It hasn't really done much for the people of Africa. How is your AU experience relevant to us?
It's amazing that the AU has done a lot.
Beyond changing from OAU to AU, what has the AU done really?
AU has a very huge economic department. It has a very huge political and social departments. And when I was there, I was a development expert. We were also working on the African debt and negotiating with the Paris Club in order to reduce the burden of the African debt. All these activities led to the institution of the HIPIC program, which has helped a lot of African countries.
So you're responsible for the HIPIC program that took place here in Ghana?
I can say that the AU, with us working in the background, was responsible for that. And again, we also worked on the Africa-Europe partnership. We were the pioneers who worked in the Secretariat to backstop this. And now that's the reason why there's a very big partnership between Europe and Africa at the continental level and also at the regional levels.
I'm bringing you back to the economy. It's interesting, your credentials and how much of an impact that would have, on your role as a vice president should Kenyans give you that nod. You talk about how that we're overly spending as a country, and it didn't start today. There have been concerns as well as to the fact that this current government, for instance, has been borrowing so much. What is your position on the borrowing nature of our government today? And indeed, if you think that we should stop borrowing?
Good. Basically, when we talk about internal borrowing from the central bank, that is fine. But the point is that the budget deficit is too wide and you borrow too much, you print a lot of money, literally, and inflation goes up. And then when inflation goes up, interest rates also go up because you have to sell treasury bills at attractive rates beyond the current interest rates for people to buy in order to mop up the money within the system. So interest rates go up. And then when interest rates go up, we have what we call crowding out of the private sector because the private sector cannot afford to be borrowing around 30%. So loanable funds, which will be moving to the banks, to the private sector, they actually stay in the bank because the banks just fold their arms and earn a clean 25% plus on their bonds. And then with regards to the external debt, we always say that certain projects have been earmarked, like the 10 field, etc., to actually amortize these loans which we borrow. But we have a record in the past, right from the Champon times, that we have never been able to settle these debts from those earmarked funds. So what we're doing is a little bit precarious because we're going to leave these debts. Some of these debts have a term of payment of about 10, 20, 30 years. If we talk about the ones which are around 30 years, who's going to pay for it? It's the unborn children.
So are you saying that we should stop borrowing as a country?
We should. If we manage the economy, we keep close to a balanced budget, we will not need to borrow that much.
How should we do that?
Fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline, it means that One, you try to increase your revenue collection. But if you find that that is very, yes, the obvious way is to widen the tax net, and but not to just increase taxes. Economic theory also says that even when you reduce prices or you reduce taxes, you actually get more people to pay, and you can actually increase revenue. So we don't put more burden on the people. A typical
so
example,
will the PNC government reduce taxes?
We will analyze the situation, right? We are not promising that we are going to reduce taxes across the board, but you analyze the situation. For example, take we've actually been reaching out to the diaspora, and they've been reporting that there are too much heavy taxes at the ports on their cars, on the containers they bring, etc. They compare us to neighboring countries, Togo, Benin, even Nigeria.
Terminal handling charges have been scrapped just recently.
Yeah, but if it is competitive enough, if people, now what happens is that people bring in cars through Togo and smuggle them into Ghana. What we should do is to look at what rates are prevailing in neighboring countries. It's good for the economy. If even foreigners can import through our countries, because Burkina Faso and Niger do that, it also boosts revenue. So we should just be a little bit circumspect about our tax rates.
Are you still analyzing the economy? You've had enough time in opposition to analyze.
Yeah, we are looking at the figures.
Still?
We are analyzing. In fact, the point is that what I'm saying is based on analysis.
Then
but
you're not ready. You're not ready for government if you're still analyzing.
Oh, it is an ongoing process. The economy is changing day by day. So what I'm saying is that we have the old figures, we are comparing the current figures. You know that figures come out on a quarterly basis. And we are looking at all this and seeing how we can actually operate on these figures in the future.
Do you trust the figures?
For now, we trust the figures. The only thing from experience, the figures that we always get are a bit different from what the World Bank and IMF also publish.
What does that mean? So you trust the World Bank figures more?
No,
than
we trust
figures?
our figures better.
Trust our figures better.
I'm looking at how well we've done as a country, and I'm looking at both past and present governments in mobilizing local resources. Do we see a PNC government, focusing on how best that within the country that we can be able to, put resources together rather than having to always go out to bring in money?
Great. I like the word resource, or local resources for that matter. But resources come in various forms: financial resources, human resources, etc. And then there are the physical resources which are under the ground. Mining, etc. Mining hasn't helped us too much because we're mining gold, etc. The offtakes are actually going abroad. Even oil itself, once we don't get our refineries processing the oil from underground here, we are not getting industries which are going to turn them into plastics and even fuel. We are still importing refined fuel, which is a difficult thing. Human resources is very great. We need to build the capacity of the agricultural sector. We need to finance them very well. The point is that if you are running budget deficits and we don't have enough money to finance them, there is a problem there, because in the past, going back to the Nkrumah days, there was heavy subsidizing of agriculture. Just from the budget itself. And that is what all other countries do. The bigger countries in the West all do it. That's the reason why they can dump so much on our economy, because they've subsidized their produce. Then we have to train our agronomists, etc. We have a model lady farmer, who has a master's or doing a master's in agric, and she's running a great piggery, and she's a model which our flag bearer really wants to showcase to Ghanaians. And so we can do that, build the resource base. Financial, yes. If we can really get the banking system going, when people have good incomes, they can also save. When they save, they put it in the banks. When the banks get it, they can lend into the system. Right now, that's not the case. Most Ghanaians cannot really save. So once the banks can do that, what we end up doing is what we call closing the investment savings gap. That means that there are enough savings to go to support investments.
What's our savings rate right now in Ghana?
Our savings rate
Yes.
is pretty poor. The gap is very, very wide. Yeah.
How much?
I would say that it's below 50%.
But I think we have come very far. In the past, it was lower than the amount that you've just put out.
No, it's,
and I know there's been a lot of awareness creation, so at least we're getting somewhere. But what we want to find out is how a PNC government will move it a bit higher.
Good. The point of the fact is that there is, I would say that there's infinitesimal improvement in the savings rate.
Very small.
Very, very small, and it's almost very negligible. But this also has been driven by something in the past which happened. Maybe we've forgotten. There's been a lot of redenomination in this country.
There was only one.
We saw one in
there were
2000.
In recent time, there was only one.
There were past ones. There were past ones in the.
Which was the first one?
During the PNDC time.
Which year was this?
That was in the 80s, early 80s. And a lot of people had to they were given a deadline where within a certain short time, they should change their money, others forfeit everything. And people just, threw the money away, burned them, and committed suicide. In Kumasi, they said the Subin River was just had floating 50 cedi notes at that time. And that has created a fear, which is actually lingering in the system. Now, for example, when there's a market fire, you find people, weeping and crying. What we all think is that it's because of the goods which have been burnt, but it's because of the money in stock in the shop boxes that they have, which have gotten burnt.
So people are more comfortable keeping the monies at home, wherever that they are, rather than taking them to the banks.
Exactly.
And you're saying what has informed this culture?
The experiences in the past.
So how do you change it? That's the most important thing.
We now we are going to assure people that they are better off carrying money to the bank. Now we have a very thriving banking system, including microfinance companies and all kinds of financial institutions. They would encourage people by bringing very suitable products, and we also help them by marketing these products to people who are keeping the money under their beds and job boxes. Now, this is where I'm saying that this will help us close the savings investment gap.
But are you rather not behind time? Because during the highlights event, the manifesto highlights event of Mr. President 2 days ago, he talked about getting more people to use a cashless system. If you're now telling us that we still have to be taking our notes to the bank, you're operating in the 20th century. With respect, sir.
Not me. Maybe Ghana, for that matter.
No, he's thinking of taking it to the cashless level. You are still talking about us taking notes to the bank. Yeah,
we should just, you can tell. How many people are using the cashless system? A lot of people are still using cash.
There's mobile money. People are making, in fact, these days, they're even paying us interest on mobile money. And recently, the figures came out that it's a growing opportunity in that space. So mobile money is becoming more important.
It is growing, but it's not up to the best. At the moment, still, if you check the statistics, right, there's more than 60% of the money supply circulating outside the banks. There's more than 60% of the money supply circulating outside the banks. That means the monies are at home, they are still in the job boxes in the market.
Let me ask you this question. What is Mr. Mahama, not your boss, but the president, what is he doing right with the economy?
What is he doing right?
Yes.
I think he has very great intentions for the economy, but
intentions are just intentions. What is he doing?
Because
right?
we heard about the manifesto, what they've been doing. Of course, they are working on infrastructure, financing rules, etc. Not too perfect, but again, that's where the catch is. When you say that you are financing rules, or what you do is you finance rules by by borrowing from abroad, that's where it becomes a real trap. There are systems. I've worked on Wall Street before, and in America, all the development that they do, the underground tunnels, the trams, the train systems, and all that, the subway, etc., they are not financed by borrowing from abroad. They are financed by floating bonds, right, to the public.
America is a whole, almost a continent on its own. We can't make that comparison between Ghana and America.
We can actually, because
we
can also float bonds. In fact, the AMA started it, the AMA started it, even House of Oak tried to float bonds, etc. There's money in the system. What I'm talking about is the money in the chobosos. They must come out, right? And that is what can be used to finance infrastructure, not borrowing from abroad.
Let's look at a few things you said in your speech yesterday when you were unveiled. You were talking about deindustrialization, and you felt that it had to be replaced with something better. Tell us a little bit about that. And you made there was a striking metaphor you used where you said factories are now become churches where the suffering people of this nation are crying to God for help. What exactly are you saying there?
Good, very good. With regards to deindustrialization, the first culprit is our own governments in the past. With these huge interest rates, the private sector is not able to borrow. So the private sector is actually going bankrupt. And when they go bankrupt, they stop running their factories. And the factories now are being rented by the churches. And the churches have people crying to God for employment, for income, and all that. If those factories were running, people will have jobs, right? Now, another cause of deindustrialization is that I think we're too quick to accede to the WTO, which was the antecedent of the GATT. And it meant that opening our economies, okay? Opening our economies, you treat everybody equally, you open your economies. What we forget is that the advanced countries actually developed their economies behind high tariffs, which protected the economies. And we just ran to the WTO, we were just happy signing agreements. We were trying to see ourselves as the blue-eyed boy, virtually acceding to whatever the international organizations do.
Well, we have black eyes. What would you do? What would the PNC do? You've described. Yeah. What would the PNC do? Would you unsign those agreements?
We can't now. It's too late. We can't now. But what we can do is negotiate. There are certain rules which can be used in advantage. Like, for example, if you belong to an economic community like ECOWAS, there's a little bit of relaxation where the ECOWAS can operate behind certain tariff lines, okay? That's what we call the Common External Tariff, the CET. And with this, we can protect our industries in a collective way.
But is ECOWAS working?
ECOWAS is working. Really? Now the CET is in place.
What is the CET?
The Common External Tariff. That means that there's a common external tariff against anybody outside ECOWAS. These tariffs protect ECOWAS countries, but we can trade within ourselves virtually tariff-free. This is the reason why Europe is trying to get to us in the EPA to join us. Because if they join us, then they will also have a common external tariff with us, and we can trade freely over there. They also want to get their goods in. Right.
But how effective is this?
Well, it's still being negotiated. It's going on. People are a bit circumspect about the European Union getting in because they feel that it's not a level playing field.
What about PNC? If you were in power, would you allow the Europe to get in?
Well, I would say that at the moment, Ghana, okay, has been signing separate agreements on the EPA because Nigeria says it's not ready or doesn't want to do it. But I would say that ideally we should go in collectively with ECOWAS. It should be a regional
minus
thing.
Nigeria?
ECOWAS includes Nigeria.
Yeah, but Nigeria doesn't want to be part of it.
Yeah, Nigeria is saying that it should be collective. But they will not sign separate agreements with the European Union.
Okay, Mr. Anyidoho,
yes.
You said we're auctioning the future of our youth. Exactly how are we doing this?
Exactly. That's the truth. The truth of the fact is that there is very high unemployment. You can see the story, and I'm very sure you will have people who you know are going through this. After JSS, they don't have a job, right? We presume that after JSS, people should be able to be employed, at least even as messengers and clerks somewhere. They don't have a job, then they do senior high school. They don't have a job, they go on and do a degree, first degree, master's degree, PhD, they still don't have a job. And they're staying in their parents' houses. And the irony is that you find a lot of young ladies who are not married because the men don't have jobs. And this is also affecting social values.
How will the PNC solve it? You're describing.
Yes.
How would you solve it?
Very good. The PNC, okay, has strategies, okay, to support areas like agric and then value added in industry. And this would create employment for the youth. We just said that there was a 25-year-old model lady who is rearing pigs. She has close to about 100 pigs at the moment, 25-year-old girl, right? Now we are going to come out with capacity building strategies which will attract people, the youth into agriculture. Agriculture is our mainstay.
Well, government is already doing this.
Yes.
So what difference?
Youth enterprise support is there.
Yes.
And there are other schemes.
There are other schemes as well that government is working on. So how different will this initiative be?
I think that is window dressing. Serious.
Window dressing?
Yes.
For the people who are, it was set up with I think a fund of about 10 million.
Yeah.
That's window dressing. That's a big window.
It's still window dressing.
10 million cities.
Because we've gone to the rural areas. We've gone to talk to farmers. They are crying for support. Support in agri-husbandry, support in the spraying of their farms. They are not getting it.
So this is where on the ground, you think it's not what government is painting?
It's not. It's painting it in the city. All right, you see the people, they call them Kafui police, Mahama police, and all that kind. That is not what we really want.
Are you talking about the NYE, the youth employment?
Yes, I think that is not the thing. We have to go to the grassroots.
Well, let me look at this new Ghana that the PNC is so much preaching. I want to have a feel of it. So, come 2017, should we have the PNC in power, how will Ghana look like?
Very good. I think one critical thing for all governments, including advanced countries, the USA, Britain, etc., they are all advertising, looking for an attraction of investments into their countries. On the contrary, here we are driving away investors by our practices. Corruption is so serious. I was in the foyer of a hotel where I saw a Canadian fellow. I didn't know him from anywhere. He was just muttering, this country is too corrupt. This country is too corrupt. I'm getting out of here. Because he is shouting that people are asking him to put money down before he's allowed to invest. And this is the kind of thing which is actually driving away investors.
Maybe he's not going through the right channels.
Well, we don't know, but
so we can't just use that one man muttering in a lobby to tell us that Ghana is corrupt.
It's interesting that he would be muttering in the lobby about such a thing.
Yeah, and there was a
by
time,
himself.
It was a time when Boeing wanted to use Tamale as his base for servicing aircraft, and in the long run, manufacturing even aircraft. And I hear that in negotiation with the government, they didn't get good results, so they went away. CNN wanted to establish over here, and then they found that rental rates and all that were so exorbitant, and they left. What we should do is to make things very attractive for investors to come.
So the question is how the PNC will be working towards that. I'm looking at that Ghana.
We are going to eliminate corruption or any hindrances into what. For example, we are going to help GIPC, the Investment Promotion Center, to make to first of all enforce the one-stop shop, where the investor comes and gets every license that he wants. He doesn't have to go and see a politician here or there before he gets a license. GIPC should be able to do this and bring in investors.
In your speech yesterday, and I'll quote you directly, we have the panacea to close the energy deficit, end doomsaw, and produce affordable energy for a comfortable life for the citizenry, and as a cheap input into industry to enhance output, employment, and incomes. Lots of nice, fine words. What is this panacea?
Good. Our flag bearer, okay, in his media round said he was going to solve doomsaw in 100 days. We have the answer to it. You know, we've been hearing a lot about the Akosombo Dam not running. 6 turbines, about 2 or 3 are currently running. That's the reason why we are relying on thermal power. As an energy economist, I know what is happening. I know the truth. What we are being told is that the voter, which got created millions of years ago before we came into existence in this country, is dwindling. It's not true. I saw this happening, okay, in the 90s. I informed an energy expert and told him that we should be very, very careful. Something is happening. And what is happening is that our neighbor, Burkina Faso, is building dams, a lot of dams across the tributaries of the Volta. And that is what is causing the Volta River to dwindle. we had a Volta River Basin Authority, not the VRA, the Volta River Basin Authority, which comprises the riparian countries. The riparian countries are all the countries where even any stream of the Volta originates from. So it covers Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso, even as far as Mali and Chad, and Ivory Coast. Now, these countries get together, are supposed to get together within the Volta River Basin Authority to negotiate the use of the river. I'll give you a typical example. When Ethiopia was building the Renaissance Dam recently, which is supposed to become one of the greatest hydro enterprises in Africa, what happened was Egypt threatened that if Ethiopia didn't stop building the dam, they were going to send their aircraft to bomb the dam. And this forced Ethiopia to the negotiating table. And now they have a timetable for the release of water on the Nile, so that Egypt, which depends on the Nile for agriculture, tourism, and everything, now would have the amount of water that it wants.
You want us to go and threaten Burkina Faso to stop building dams?
We don't threaten them, we ask them to come to the negotiating table. Because what happens, and I'm very sure it's already happening, around this time, the Burkina Bay, they stock the water in the dams, and then they release, they spell it at the wrong time. It destroys crops,
right
kills.
For them.
Yeah,
wrong
at
time
their own time.
Yeah, their right time.
Their right time, not our right time.
Exactly.
For us, it destroys crops, and then NADMO, and then kills people, and NADMO has to go in and rescue. But we need to get a timetable, get them to negotiate a time. It's very easy, it's very possible that you release the water at this rate at this time, so that we are not short. And Akosombo will run pretty well, provide about 50 to 60% of our power, and we will not be relying on expensive thermal generators, which are actually shooting up prices.
So we're short of constant, efficient power under a PNC government.
Exactly.
Do you agree to suggestions that Ghana's local governance system is fraud due to the issues with decentralization? And I'm looking at a situation where, I mean, we've heard, Nanado said severally that, look, I'm going to ensure that we elect DCEs, for instance. President Mahama has added his voice to it. What is the position of the PNC? I'm looking at the proper dissolution of power from top to bottom at the local level.
Very good. Our take is that democracy should be fair and owned by people, so that when we have DCs being appointed from government or by government, I think that is not right. The people who constitute the local government should have a right in the choice of their elected, and as such, it should be run on the same party lines that we're using.
Since when did you become a politician?
It's a long time ago.
Since when did you become a PNC member?
About a year ago.
A year ago. Are you confident that PNC will win this election? I asked this question based on figures. I'm looking at just the presidential results. So in '92, Dr. Liman won 266,000 votes, which was 6.7%. In '96, Dr. Mahama won 3.0% of the vote. In 2000, Dr. Mahama won 2.5% of the vote. It's coming down. 2004, 1.9%. 2008, 0.9%. 2012, 0.22%. And the percentages are coming down as the total voter population is increasing. For the PMC to win, you need 5.1 million votes in December, if you're using just 2012 figures. The last election, you had 617 votes. That was Dr. Mahama, and you're going to help him. So that was Mr. Ayariga, and you're going to help Dr. Mahama increase from 24,617 to some 5.1 million. Is this a dream?
It's not a dream at all. The point of the fact is, I love the way you've actually presented the figures. But what we are saying is that it's a new dispensation, it's a new era altogether. Luckily enough for us, the citizenry of this country have actually observed the performance of the two parties. We've gone around, we've talked to people, and what they are telling us is that, first we ask them, are you registered? They say, yes, yeah, I'm a registered voter. Which party are you going to vote for? Say, I'm not voting for, the typical example I'm saying on the average, I'm not voting for anybody. Why should I go and queue in the sun and then vote for people who would not meet our needs. So they are not voting at all. So we tell them that we are the PNC, we have a new dispensation, this is what we are offering. And immediately they tell us they are very interested in our new beginnings, our new deal, our new force, the 3 pillars of our manifesto, and they will want to vote for us.
I mean, Dr. Mahama has very beautiful ideas on paper, and I'm wondering if indeed over the years the dwindling trend has been informed by the fact that you haven't properly articulated, what exactly it is that you want to do for this country. Should you be given the nod? Why do you think that Ghanaians are going to hear you this time around?
Yeah, they are actually listening to us because I told you the 3 pillars. New beginnings. The new beginnings summarized as public sector efficiency. We're going to improve the public sector in terms of efficiency because it is the mainstay of every system.
If you say in terms of efficiency,
yes.
What are we talking about?
Okay, somebody does a joke that you give a Ghanaian a computer, and that's when a computer is supposed to make things efficient. That's when it really creates problems because you tell you the network is not working. There's this problem here and there, and because of that, but in the long run, people are actually looking for money under the table, right? Now, we're going to actually put a stop to that through serious discipline. At the same time, the moment you have a balanced budget, like I said, you reduce inflation. So people's purchasing power increases. Single spine system, it improves salaries. But in the long run, it was made nonsense by inflation. The purchasing power of people's money actually dropped. So if you're able to reduce inflation, okay, their purchasing power, even if they are still being paid the 400 cedis or the 1,000 cedis, they can, if you reduce inflation by half, that means that people can purchase with the same amount of money more. This is just a typical example. We talk about corruption in the police. If the police are paid well, right, they will not be taking money from drivers and all kinds of things. Because, for example, I mean, in the Western countries, the average salary of a policeman is around $3,000 to $5,000
on a different kind of a budget. Of a budget.
And I'm even wondering, is it not just human nature? Because then people still are paid probably better figures, and they still are corrupt.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If their purchasing power is low, they'll be corrupt.
Is the PNC really a national party?
Yes, it is a national party. It cuts across the whole country.
Are you going to field parliamentary candidates in every single one of the 275 constituencies?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, we are doing that.
You currently have one seat in Parliament.
One seat. It doesn't mean that we didn't have losers. So we have losers who are going to come back.
Are you the one to bring in the votes from the Volta region and cripple the NDC?
The point is that remarkably I speak several Ghanaian languages.
But your name doesn't show you to be from Bukom. You're not from Bukom.
But you know,
from the Volta region.
My middle name you can see is Kweku. Yes. It's not K-O-U-K-U.
Well,
K-W-A-K-U.
Are you the one to bring in the votes from the Volta region for the PNC?
Yeah, of course. If I go to the Volta region and they feel that I'm a son of the land and they want to give us our votes, great. But we're not going to have a bias for the Volta region. We're going to work everywhere. I started school in the Amansie district in Ashanti. My father used to be a CPP chairman over there. And we're going to go to areas like that. We're going to speak Tree. Are you
a prophet of doom?
I'm not a prophet of doom.
There's a statement that has been attributed to you quickly before you run out. He says, and I quote, I want to know whether you actually said it. He says, there's a looming menace behind us. Everybody heard about the Arab Spring. It's already looming in the background. This is an interview you gave to a gentleman from the Class News, Kwesi Parker Wilson. And he says, I'm not predicting chaos. These are your words. What I'm saying is that if the right things are done, we can stop any chaos. And that means if the PNC is voting to power, we'll do the right things, which will reduce disaffection in the system. Did you really say that there's an Arab Spring looming if the NDC should lose?
Yeah, we had our Arab Spring looming earlier, around March. Occupy Ghana. Agitation to occupy Flagstaff House, demonstrations, all kinds of versions of Kumi Preko.
But we are not Arabs, and there's no spring in Ghana.
Yeah. The point is that, can you notice that they have subsided? They have subsided at the moment, not to talk about doctors going on strike and all that. They have subsided now because people are having hope in the elections that things are going to change. That's why they have subsided. And then when we win, right, that will give them even greater hope. Because this is what we are promising, that we are going to do, make this economy good, We're going to make sure that they enjoy a very good welfare system, not welfare system totally based on government, but the point is the standards of living are going to improve, so they wouldn't have to agitate.
But if NDC wins, there will be Arab Spring. Is that what you're saying?
There is a fear, because if NDC wins, right, it doesn't change its policies, and the policies that are going on are maintained, running budget deficits, which are actually spiraling inflation, making people's money not take them home. People's monies can't, their salaries can't cover their electricity bills. The agitations are going to come back.
Well, I believe that pressure groups have been around since time immemorial, but these are your words, and we respect that. With that humility, like Jesus Christ, like your flag bearer said, we hope that should you be given the nod, you better serve Ghana. Thank you for your time. Mr. Emmanuel Anyidoho, and he's a PNC running mate.